Good morning to you, first thing on a Monday morning, and it is sublime. The sun is out already, I'm squinting. It's warm already as well, which is really super nice. We're getting that extended summer. They said we would, didn't they? I checked the forecast and it didn't look that promising a few days ago. But here we are, nonetheless, being lapped and bathed in the sun's good grace. Anyway, today I've got a whole day of clients. I've got a one-to-one client coming in literally just a few minutes. I'm heading down to the barn now just to check it out, make sure it looks presentable. And I'll share some wisdoms that come out of that because I think it's always interesting. I think I've got a short break where I'm going to be talking to Tracy and Maya, and it's about marketing, because Monday is our marketing day where we all focus on marketing, apart from when you've got loads of one-to-one clients. And they've got another client coming down here who's just kicking off with us, and we're looking at his models, looking at his plans, and just sort of sense checking things. And again, I'll share some stuff with that as it comes out, because I think it's really nice to get prompted by these things, these real world cases, real world questions, real world scenarios, and then I'll share them back to you, hopefully as wisdom that helps you on your daily grind, daily hustle if you're American, or just working hard if you're in the UK to create what it is you're trying to create and to build what it is you're trying to build in your businesses. Anyway, I'm just going to go and check out this room, make sure it's all looking good, and then I'll check in with you in just a little bit. Okay, interesting. I just showed you some books there actually, and these are just a handful of books that have come out of our success group. So this one, The Music Miracle, is actually by Lisa, and is all about how introducing music theory to your children at a very young age actually has massive benefits to their mental development and emotional development, I believe, as well. This one here was from Rob Goddard. He's in our mastermind, and this is all about selling businesses. Nice thin read, this one, but basically it's just his 11 commandments and the 7 cardinal sins of selling a business. Pat myself in the eye there. And this one here is from Carolyn Varlam, who's also in our mastermind, and this is how to fire the buggers and stay out of tribunals. This is all about, actually, if you're a golf company, it's all about HR, and it's all about keeping you out of the rough, it's called, but it's all about basically how to fire the buggers and stay out of tribunal. Keep yourself legal and legit. Okay, so just had a bumper session with my one-to-one client. Today we're really talking a lot about what I call emotional manipulation. In other words, how our emotions manipulate us in thinking certain ways, and how they manipulate us in terms of our behaviours and what we take action on, what we don't take action on, etc. Really what it comes down to is chemistry, right? It's biology. It's chemistry fired off in the brain and then fired off throughout the body that manipulates certain behavior patterns, certain actions. For example, super excitedness, okay, is triggered by certain brain impulses that then trigger off a whole load of chemicals and hormones, etc., and feelings, we would call those, that give us that sensation of excitement. Of course, excitement is all about getting us to take action on something, okay? So we're normally excited about anything which we believe is going to give us a reward, or a great reward, anything we believe is going to be good for us, positive for us, a positive experience, anything like that. That sense of excitement drives us to move forward. Fear, for example, will drive us to, you probably heard this, fight or flight response. So you'll either fight or you'll flight, or maybe freeze response, okay? And that's all manipulated by chemistry, okay? So fear triggers off in the body, you either run away or you attack. However, you are pretty much unconscious to most of this stuff that's going on. In fact, you are very much an unconscious being. So we talk about, human beings becoming enlightened, etc. The truth of the matter is, most of us aren't even awake. Most of our actions, most of our behaviors, most of our thought patterns are unconsciously driven. In other words, we're not choosing them even when we think we're choosing them. They're impulses that fire off inside of us, and it's manipulation that is in the form of emotion or chemistry and hormones, etc., that decide whether we're feeling lethargic, excited, passionate, lustful, whether we're feeling fearful, doubtful, woeful, all these things, sad and happy. It's all chemical manipulation, and we need to get involved in the process and stop being sort of passive in this idea that I'm somehow a victim of my own emotions, and therefore my behavior patterns are victims of my chemical makeup. We need to get involved, and where we need to get involved is really in the two environments, the internal environment and the external environment out of there. You want to basically set up new triggers for yourself so that you trigger different chemical responses that are much more in alignment with what it is you're trying to create. So for example, if you've got a big project to get going on first thing in the morning, you would like to have a little bit of excitement in you. You're going to wake up fresh, wake up early maybe, and you're just going to get going. You don't want to wake up with fear and doubt and dread and whatever it might be. You don't want that. It's a terrible chemistry set. Certainly not productive in terms of getting shit done. So you want to do that. Now, of course, most of us will wake up in the morning and it's hit and miss. It's 50-50, you know, whether we wake up happy or wake up sad, wake up motivated or wake up dreading the day, whatever it might be. You can get involved in this, but you can't get involved in it by trying to be happy. You can't just be happy. You can't say happiness on, because happiness is a byproduct of other things. Make sense? It's the chemistry set that fires off inside of us, which is triggered by a whole host of other things going on inside of us. Our conditioning, our perceptions, what we believe is going to happen today in this moment, what we believe about ourselves, etc., triggers these things. So we want to create the right environment for happiness to happen. So it's a bit like trying to create lightning. Now, as I understand it, and my science might be a little bit out of date, you can't make lightning happen. What we can do, however, is create the right conditions for lightning to happen. Okay, so in terms of experiments in the lab, maybe it's come on a bit now, but the metaphor still serves. So you can't create lightning. You can't say, right, lightning happen now. What you do is you set in one of those big, massive, like kind of testing jars they have in science places, okay, labs, and you can create the conditions in there for lightning to happen. It's the same thing for happiness. You can't just make yourself happy, you know. Anyone says, oh, choose happiness, choose to be happy, doesn't understand what happiness is. You can't just choose to be happy. You can't just switch happiness on. You can't just switch motivation on. You can't do that any more than you can switch fear on or doubt on or dread on or anything else. What you do is you manipulate yourself to create the conditions for that to happen. So for example, if you're feeling a bit lackluster and a bit sad and a bit miserable, you might deliberately choose to put yourself in front of a comedy, or to talk to a really good friend, or go down the gym, or go for a run, or do something that motivates you, inspires you, makes you feel positive. What you're doing is you're manipulating yourself to create the right conditions for happiness to happen. Does this make sense? Cool. It's also the same for sadness, fear, and everything else. What most of us don't realise is that actually our environment that we create around us, and the one in here, absolutely creates the conditions for the experience that we're having at any one moment. So if I'm in a miserable part of the house, or I'm around miserable people, for example, well, we know, right? You know, Buddhists will tell you this. Of course, I don't have to be a victim of that. Of course, I can, you know, keep myself happy and positive by just keeping on top of the internal environment. However, it's just easier to stay positive when that shit's not in your life. So for me, I would keep saying, and I said this to the guy today, the smart person knows when to manipulate the external or the internal, or both, environments. So for example, if I'm feeling a bit miserable, I can sit there and try and make myself happy. I can sit there and try and think happy thoughts. I can do all of that and try and influence it in here. Or I can work out what's making me unhappy out there, or what's stopping me or prohibiting me from being happy out there, and I can change that and influence that. Let's say, for example, I'm in an office and there is no window and it's starting to get me down. Well, I could try and get in my head and just turn that frown upside down and focus on positive things and try and change the internal environment. However, if I just rearrange my house or my office, or put a hole in the wall, it would be easier in order to create happiness. Make sense? It's the same for motivation, drive, being inspired, having great levels of aspiration, drive, etc. Put yourself into the environments that stimulate and manipulate the triggers that give you the experience that you want and need in order to take the action that you need to take in order to create the results that you want. No, I'm not going to repeat that. If you need to hear it again, just do a quick rewind and listen to that again. Fundamentally, what it is yes, you want to get in here, and fundamentally this is where happiness exists, this is where drive exists and motivation exists. It all exists in the mind and the chemistry set of the human brain and the human body. However, we can absolutely get involved in influence that by getting in here, but also absolutely getting out of there, in terms of creating the external world that we want, that stimulates us to have the experience of life that we want and keep us engaged with our life the way that we need to create ultimately what we want to get out of life. Again, I'm not repeating that. Just hit the rewind button, 10, 15 seconds, and you can listen to that again. Anyway, awesome session, really challenging stuff. Obviously, if you're not into this kind of thinking, The truth is you're far less in control of your life than you think you are. However, that doesn't mean we have to be passive in this experience of life. We absolutely can get involved in it, and we can start to create the change and create the life and the business that we want. Anyway, if I haven't fried your brain already, I'm going to jump in the house. We have Maya down today because it's marketing day here at BBB Towers, and Tracy and her working on some stuff and looking at some technical stuff actually for some things that we're doing later in the year. I keep alluding to it, don't I? I'll share it with you later. I'm going to jump in there, have some lunch, hang out with those for a bit, and I've got my second client coming over in about an hour. Okay, so just had my second one-to-one of the day, a good couple of hours with this guy. Interestingly, actually, we were talking about some stuff not dissimilar to what I was covering this morning with my other client. And one of the things that came out was he said to me, the exact words were, I need to get out of my industry. I need to get out of that environment and put myself in places where I'm challenged more, where I get to think bigger, see bigger, feel bigger, etc. And it's really interesting because that's exactly what I was saying to you a few hours ago when I was talking to you about manipulating the external world so that it manipulates you to have the experience of life that you want to have, but also to drive you in the way you need to be driven. You know, that chemical manipulation we're talking about through what we would call feelings. So actually what he's done is absolutely right. What he says is he's got to get himself, because his industry is full of people who aren't making much money. His industry is full of people who struggle financially and aren't really in the mindset of real growth or playing a bigger game. And one of the reasons he's working with us, and one of the reasons he's doing some of the other stuff that he's doing at the moment, is deliberately to get himself out of his industry, right? Because there's loads of this sort of personal development stuff. There's loads of business advice in his industry, and that's actually what he does. He provides business advice and he provides this kind of training to his industry. But the problem you've got is when the industry has a mindset, you know, the whole industry wide has a bit of a limiting mindset, you can't help but become part of that when you are part of that. So by getting himself out and talking to me and getting himself out and working with me and doing some of the stuff that we're doing here at Success Groups, etc., it's really enabling him to put himself in environments that get him out of the slightly closed mindset of his current industry, certainly the limited mindset of his current industry, and starting to really see himself as much bigger than he is, and start to see his business as being so much bigger than it currently is. And he's really super excited. We're talking six figures here, etc., in terms of where he wants to get to, which would be pretty unprecedented in his industry. I'm not saying no one does that, I'm just saying not many people in his industry break the six-figure mark following the models he's doing. So I'm really excited about working with this guy ongoing, really excited about where he's heading and everything else. And I thought I'd share it with you because whilst we talked about a lot of stuff, that one was very much in keeping with what I'd already said earlier. So why wouldn't we have a theme here on Monday? So again, just reiterate that with you. Get yourself in the environments that stimulate you, motivate you, that make you want to be better, do better, be bigger than what you're currently being. Get yourself in environments that inspire you, okay? Rather than necessarily just trying to do all the work up here. Yeah, you definitely want to conquer the internal environment. You definitely want to get on top of your mindset, keep yourself positive, keep yourself focused and everything else. But I'm telling you now, the quickest way of leveling up is to get yourself out of the environment that's limiting you and put yourself into environments where they expect more from you, where just the general thinking's bigger than what you're thinking, and it will challenge you for sure. But if you're willing to step up to the plate, it's the fastest way to level up. Anyway, I thought I'd share it with you. Now I have 3 hours, whatever it is. I have 3 hours now as he gets up, like an old man. I have 3 hours of marketing with Maya and Tracy. I had a little bit of a demonstration of one of the platforms earlier. I'm hoping to develop that a little bit further, and we're seeing how this is going to really unfold. Unlike the studio, which I keep drip feeding you stuff rather than, because I can't keep a secret, I'm going to keep this secret, and just for a little bit longer. Once we know exactly how it's going to play out, I'm going to share it with you. Anyway, what a day. I'm going to share it again. What a day. Still there. So the sun, I don't know, what's the time now? Kind of 4:30. Sun's starting to set over there, and you know what? It is still warm. I even might have a bead or two of sweat on my head. Anyway, hope you're enjoying it. Hope you have a life where you can get out and enjoy the sun as well. If that's your thing, it is for me. It'll soon be gone and we'll miss it. Have an awesome one. Keep productive, and I'll talk to you in just a little bit. Okay, so that brings us to nearly 8 o'clock. I am fried, my brain is done. I'm just going to chill out now, have some lunch, watch some crappy old TV. I'll be honest with you, my brain will probably wake up again in about an hour or two, and no doubt I shall have a play with a few bits and pieces before hitting the sack finally tonight. But I'm going to call it a day with you. I hope you've had an awesome day. I hope you've been productive and successful doing whatever it is you've been doing, and we'll pick it up tomorrow morning and we will do it all over again. Until then, as always, be successful.